Welcome to the Shikama Live Show with your host, Shikama. I was trying to wrap this entire video, but I give up. I can't even, literally, I can't even go 3 words without completely messing up, so I am not a rapper. If that has something to do with being black, I guess I need to turn in my black card, right? Here are 5 vital stories the media failed to report while obsessing over Lamar Odom and the Kardashian vipers. Las Vegas, Nevada. Once again, the corporate mainstream media has latched onto a story that, for all intents and purposes, doesn't serve to inform, educate, or assist people in growing their base of knowledge about the world in general. In fact, it has quite the opposite effect. The feeding frenzy-like media atmosphere surrounding the hospitalization of Lamar Odom and the Kardashian circus that followed is just the latest example of the hyper-focus American media bestows upon athletes and celebrities to the detriment of actual news stories. The intense coverage of Odom's hospitalization has virtually taken over the airwaves, drowning out stories that are much more deserving of national news coverage. And before I go on, I'll do that at the end. Below are 5 of the most important stories that the corporate media missed during their frenzied coverage of Odom and the Kardashians. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Behind the scenes, I make a lot of news stories, and a lot of them are censored by the powers that be. In fact, any real news of what's really going on is censored. Now, I'm going to say this, and I don't want anybody to get offended. So I'm in the business of making money. This is what I do for a living, and I'm doing very well. I'm actually growing and growing and growing and expanding and growing and expanding. And I have a major announcement coming in a future video that I hope that a lot of you will like. But here's the offensive statement. When I make my black videos, those always go through. When I make my news videos, it's a 40% chance they won't go through, that there'll be all sorts of arguments over them, all sorts of legal battles. I have to write this, that in person. And what's really terrible is, here's the sad part. Even though this is YouTube, even though this is recorded, permanent, and accessible at any time, a lot of the fire in a video and the momentum that a video has is that I get the video out right as the story hits. So I need to get the video right as the story hits. And if I'm doing news and I'm trying to get it out right as the story hits, censored. Even if I had one video that I battled over for an entire year. A year. Can you imagine how uninterested the entire population is after a year of not seeing that story, right? Oh, it's a great video, but it's a year late. An entire year. Now, I do dig up old stories that are very interesting and very newsworthy. And then people say, oh, didn't this happen like 3 years ago? Yes, it did, but this is how I'm able to put out a lot of my news videos. The story is so old that they don't even bother anymore. You know what I mean? It's 3 years old and nobody's butthurt about the news, about the story. So they let it go through. So when I read this off to you, I've tried gossip, and I'm not going to go into my finances, but I make 50 times as much money from actual news than I do from gossip. And I've tried gossip. I don't have the audience for gossip anyway. For gossip, you need millions, and here's why it doesn't pay as much. Because it's gossip, it's everywhere, everybody's doing it. If an advertiser wants gossip, he can literally close his eyes, spin around, throw a dart, and boom, he's picked somebody. He doesn't have to tag somebody. Not everybody has a good financial audience, a good politics audience. And the demographic for millennials, Generation X, Generation Y, baby boomers, not everybody has such an audience. I have such an audience. So when I have a stockbroker who wants to advertise, I'm one of the very few that they can advertise on. It's MSNBC, Fox Business, Bloomberg, a couple of others, and me. Yahoo Finance. I don't know if Yahoo Finance is on YouTube. That would be kind of counterproductive, seeing as Google is their opponent. But I guess, hey, money is money, right? And me. Now, I noticed that there are a lot of black people talking about black stuff, blah, 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 but they're not talking about news. They're not talking about finance. They're not talking about stock market as actual news stock market. They might say black people are getting stomped on by the stock market and by Wall Street. And in fact, I don't even think they're doing analysis, in-depth analysis of what Wall Street is doing that is directly impacting on black people, where you would find such a thing on my channel. I'm not tooting my horn, but I am tooting my own horn. It's time out. Hey, everybody, you need to toot your own horns. Get away from that. Pride is a sin. Why is pride a sin? Why? Nobody's going to be if you don't have a mother or a father who's alive, who's going to be proud of you other than yourself? Your wife, you're not married. Who's going to be proud of you? Your children, you have none. Who's going to be proud of you? And being proud of yourself is your self-motivation. So yeah, I'm proud of myself. You should be proud of yourself. I'm trying to erase all of this really bad information that Americans are brought up on. Oh, you shouldn't be prideful. You shouldn't be boastful. You should boast. That's why we're in the position we're in now. That's why we're talking about we need to give our money to poor people, because you have been browbeat so much. Black people, white people, Latino people, Asian people, Jewish people. You've been browbeat so much. Oh, you shouldn't boast. You shouldn't be prideful. You shouldn't flash your money. You should flash your money. It's motivation for the poor people to get to where you are. After every boast that I have, what do I say? You want to learn? I'll teach you for free. Guy comes over here in our little hotel thing. He says, why do you speak Japanese? I go, oh, doesn't everybody speak Japanese? I speak Japanese. Hey, you know what? It's me. He goes, okay, I'll learn English from you. You'll practice your Japanese with me. I was like, fine, deal. See, that's how it really works. You boast, you're prideful, and you help your fellow man through that. You don't need to be browbeat by the powers that be. We need to help the poor people. You don't need to help. The government doesn't need to help the poor people. Richard Johnson down the street, he needs to help poor people, because Richard Johnson will know, okay, I know that actually Shaniqua has a heart of gold, but Bessie Sue down the road, she doesn't have a heart of gold. If I give Shaniqua $100, that girl is going to go to the community college and sign up for 3 classes, and in a year's time, she's going to have some sort of associate's degree, and she's going to be on her feet. Whereas if I give the money $100 to the government, 99 of it is going to go to Wall Street. And neither Shaniqua nor Bessie Sue are going to see not one of those dollars. And that's what people fail to realize. They're like, oh yeah, we need to up the taxes. We need all of these Bernie Sanders people, freaks coming after me. Yeah, we need to up the taxes. No, the government doesn't help people. John Smith down the road, he helps people. And Shaniqua knows him. He knows Shaniqua. He knows that if he gives her $100, $1,000, she's going to take it, invest it in herself, become a student, get a degree, get a profession. Boom. She's making $40,000 a year. She's now contributing to the society. People help people. The government doesn't help people. The government simply grows itself to become more powerful so that the rich and powerful can use more of the government. If you grow the government, the rich and the powerful will take even more advantage of it. That's how it is. That's what the quote unquote founding fathers. And what's really ironic is, they say, well, the founding fathers were white. Well, there were some black people helping them too. Not everybody was a slave. I know that's the mantra of the new age. We're gonna erase history and say black people contributed. No, black people contributed. It was a black man that first died in the Revolutionary War. The first person to die was black, not a white man. In the Revolutionary War, black people fought and died for this country. Free, black, guy, gun, militia, the whole 9 yards. We're all in this together. And the founding fathers said, you know what? We don't want the rich and powerful, the oligarchs. We don't want an oligarchical system where you have the kings, the dukes, and the lords, and all that sort of people all stomping on the necks, being able to pull people out of their homes at a whim, take their home. This home is in the way of the road. The king is building a highway here. Get out of your house. We're taking over your land. But I've had this land for hundreds of years. It's been in my... who cares? The king is taking over. Get out the way. The founding fathers did not want that. And that's why the country was created. And now you people are handing it over, all of it back over. Oh, we don't want a king. Well, you sure do have a king. You sure do have dukes and lords. You just don't call them that. It's not a non-feudal system in name only, if there was an acronym for that. Let's get to this. Number 1, UK government conveniently deleted entire database of evidence documenting pedophile rings. The investigation into rampant pedophilia of British social elites and high-ranking government officials has barely cracked the headlines in the U.S., but the sexual abuse of children was so widespread that it is alleged to have reached all the way up to the British Prime Minister's office. That means somebody in the Prime Minister's office is a pedophile. We don't know if it's a prime minister or if it's just a staffer, but it's in his office. Somebody that he knows. The Independent Inquiry into Child Sex Abuse, the IICSA, apologized this week after vital testimony from victims of child sexual abuse was, quote, instantly and permanently deleted from their servers. The agency said that the loss of data was due to a technical malfunction, which dumped an untold number of testimonies that were submitted to their official website. The agency now claims that there was no security breach and that while the testimonies were lost, the privacy of the victims is not at risk. I'm sorry, I'm a computer person. I build computers. I design websites. I develop websites. And in so doing, I create databases for websites. And I know that data is not lost. Just like the Hillary emails, oh, I deleted them, they're gone forever. No, sorry, no. Not in this world. Data is not lost, not on a computer. Hey, British people, if you want that data, go retrieve it. It's not lost. They can delete it all they want to. It's not lost. Number 2, newly released emails expose George Bush and Tony Blair plotting Iraq war a year before the invasion. In a stunning blow to the official narrative propagated by the Bush administration in the run-up to the Iraq war, recently released declassified emails have exposed the numerous lies government officials exposed in the months leading up to the war in Iraq. The emails received by Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State were subsequently stored on her private email server. The documents of Clinton's server have been released due to rulings from the U.S. courts. Now, here's a bombshell that you're not going to hear even from the Hillary Clinton emails. During the Clinton administration, that is Bill Clinton, they had already plotted to invade Iraq. This is even before Saddam Hussein changed from the petrodollar to selling oil through the euro. This is before that. So all of the conspiracy theories are saying that they wanted to invade Iraq because Saddam Hussein changed from the US dollar selling oil to the euro selling oil, which would then have flooded the market with Iraqi oil because more people, all of Europe would have been able to buy directly from Iraq. And at the time, the euro was actually higher than the dollar at the time, right? So you would have had this flood of oil coming from Iraq, and Iraq would have been even more rich than they could possibly have dreamed of, right? It's not just the petrodollar, but the U.S. keeps a lot of countries in check by lowering the price of oil. So a dollar will only get you this much of oil. But if you have a euro, that's 3 times the value of a dollar. You can get 3 times as much oil. Which means that your country can grow by that much faster in economy. Can you imagine a super duper wealthy, everybody walking around in Iraq with, Gucci bags, what have you, whatever. I'm just trying to explain this in Valley Girl terms. Oh my God, if everybody in Iraq were rich, not that there aren't, but they would have been richer. And then it would have trickled down to every nook and cranny of Iraq. And a lot of this religious stuff would have just blown away. Let's think about that for a second. If everybody is rich, a lot of this religious stuff would have blown away, because in the face of money, people will seek out their best interest first, not this religious crap. And I'm talking Sunni, Shiite. They would have laid down their arms. They would have hugged. And if not hugged, they would have said, hey, can I have that apple? Well, yes, I have 2 euros. You can have the apple. Oh, okay. Hey, can I have that car? Well, yeah, I have 60,000 euros. Well, here, have my car. There you go. Oh my God. You know what? You're not, you want to come over for dinner? Yeah, sure. What you serving? Whatever you want, buddy. It's my treat. Okay. Huh? That's how capitalism works. It really destroys a lot of this whole cultural taboos and all of that sort of stuff. It really does. It really does. Capitalism took a country that by law said that black people were nothing, not even human. And capitalism destroyed all of those misconceptions. And it was on its way to really destroying everything all of a sudden. And then the Democrats took over. No, can't have that. Black people went from being quote unquote freed, which actually meant that Negro, you don't have a pot to piss in now, nothing. And massa doesn't have to feed, clothe, house, and take care of you, because they had to feed, clothe, house, and take care of their slaves. I know Hollywood shows you beating the slaves and what have you, but the reality was slaves were expensive. Imagine a child that works for you that never grows up. And I have documents of many farmers complaining that they could not only could they not get slaves, but they had to hand over the slaves that they had because they just could not afford slaves. It was a rich man's thing. And I know a lot of white people say, we're superior to black people. Dude, you were friggin' working right next to the damn slaves. And what's worse is they didn't want to hire you because they had to give you money. The slaves they just had to take care of, but because of the infrastructure that they created with the plantation of food growing always, housing already taken care of, they didn't really need money. They had to just simply take care of the slaves. They had to make sure that all of the infrastructure and stuff was in place to take care of the slaves. They couldn't have white people working. And a lot of white people hated slaves, not for being black, but because they wanted to do the work and get paid to do that. Most of the Irish and the Scottish came over here looking for that work. Now, in the 20th century and the 21st century, no, the 20th century, so in the 90s we had this. We had almost a rebellion with the white gypsy population over the illegal immigrants. This is something else that the news doesn't tell you about. And what's funny is when all of these farms that get rid of the illegal immigrants, who comes there? Blacks and gypsies. And they talk about, oh, we have Americans who don't want it. No, they're talking about white people. They're talking about middle-class white people. No, a middle-class white person, first of all, doesn't need to be picking cotton, picking oranges, picking apples, picking peas, picking watermelons. No. We want the middle-class white person to be on the phone when our iPhone breaks. That's what we want middle-class white people to be. And we don't want an Indian. I'm sorry to say I have Indian friends. I'm sorry, I apologize, but I swear to God, if you're not born and raised speaking English in school, it is horrible trying to understand you because of the way that you pronounce your vowels. It's just so foreign to the American ear, we can't understand it. And it's fantastic that you built up an infrastructure to do a lot of the social service for us, like answering phones, doing the customer service, all that sort of stuff. Being technical support, that's fantastic, but dear God in heaven, we can't understand you. Now, as I said, when the farms are busted for having illegal aliens, when they get rid of all of them, who comes there? Black people and gypsies. Now, the gypsies aren't permanent. Gypsies come through, do the harvest. You need more people during the harvest because you want to be able to pick it in 1 or 2 days. You want to go through the entire farm, pick it 1 or 2 days, and you move on to the next farm. Harvest is done, and the black people stay there and actually work forever, as a permanent job. But the gypsies come through and help with just the harvest. The gypsies were very upset because they work for virtually what Mexicans work for. So why are Mexicans there? Why are there illegal aliens there? What are you gaining? You're not gaining anything. They literally are taking jobs from Americans. Legitimate Americans. They're gypsies, but they have ID. They pay sales tax and all that sort of stuff. They don't pay property tax because they move. And then it's not just that. We have the white kids getting out of college who go to the little towns on the borders in Florida and what have you, and they try and work for the summer or work during the breaks. Who's there? Illegal aliens taking the jobs of the white college kids. So literally the white college kid cannot then, this is what I was going to do for law school, work on Wall Street, pay for college, and then have like this circular rotation of working and going to school, working and going to school. They can't do that because now they've hired illegal aliens and pay them under the table. So it's not just corporations. It's ma and pa, because now they're able to pay these people under the table. And I know you're so, oh, that's horrible. That's actually the free market. At work, live live and well. If they weren't here, they'd pay the regular pay for white people or black people. And when we talk about white and black people are the black version of white people. When it comes to pay, because black people aren't going to settle for under the table wages. Everybody keeps saying, oh, black people are so different. Black Americans are the black version of white people. Africans are something completely different. Black people are completely Americanized. You think that the media wants you to think that black people are so different from white people. No, completely Americanized. Trust me, the person who basically grew up overseas in foreign country and then came back and said, oh, we're so much different. How are you different? How? You talk the same. Black people simply have heavier voices than white people. And that comes from years of having a very vowel-heavy language. I speak 5 languages, so I'm able to speak on this. I'm not a linguist, but I speak 5 languages. Black people have years of a very vowel-heavy language. White people have centuries of a very consonant-heavy. You know, stuff that you're just using your tongue to say stuff. Consonants. There's so many consonants, and the consonant makes your voice like this versus a vowel. for a vowel, you have to use your whole mouth to pronounce vowels. You see, just by me saying the O sound or the U sound, try it at home. It makes your voice much deeper because you are using vowel. First of all, you have to open your mouth. With a consonant, you don't have to open it. Number 3, Russia destroys most ISIS heavy weaponry. U.S. promptly airdrops 50 tons of weapons into Syria. Okay, those are two different things. Let me read that again. Number 3, Russia destroys most ISIS heavy weaponry. U.S. promptly airdrops 50 tons of weapons into Syria. Report this week indicated that Islamic State militants were decimated by recent Russian airstrikes and have lost most of their ammunition. 1 week. Heavy vehicles and equipment in the precision strikes, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Moving quickly to operationalize a new strategy in which the U.S. would require only leaders of the rebel groups to be vetted, the U.S. airdropped 50 tons of weapons and ammunitions to the newly branded Syrian Arab Coalition Forces, a U.S. rebel coalition group rebranded but known for its unreliability and willingness to hand weapons over to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Let me repeat that, because that's worth repeating, huh? So we have the precision strikes of the Russians. In 1 week, they destroyed basically the entire head of ISIS, leaving them without anything really to fight with, right? When we're talking about, if you're sieging a castle and I destroy all of your trebuchets, what are you going to seize the castle with? With swords? You better get to those building some ladders, right? But after the Russian, in 1 week, this is what Russia did in 1 week. Moving quickly to operationalize a new strategy in which the U.S. would require only leaders of the rebel groups to be vetted, the U.S. airdropped 50 tons of weapons and ammunitions to the newly branded Syrian Arab Coalition Forces, a U.S. rebel coalition group rebranded, but known for its unreliability and willingness to hand weapons over to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Now, so this isn't ISIS. This is another group inside of Syria. Now, I don't know if you've seen this video, this little mini documentary trying to explain Syria, but there is 5 groups in Syria, not just ISIS. Assad is not the bad guy, because even in this mini documentary, they show that what they're trying to do is overthrow Assad by any means necessary. Oh, call him a dictator, call him a murderer, say that he's used weapons of mass destruction, he's used chemical warfare, when in fact the chemical warfare turned out to be U.S. made. And the people who used it were actually the quote-unquote rebels. These are the same rebels who were shooting and killing Syrian civilians. Obviously, these aren't Syrian rebels, because why are they killing and shooting and killing their people, which supposedly they're fighting for? And why are they coming from the border to the interior? I'm not saying the U.S. is handing over weaponry to ISIS and created ISIS to get at Iran, but what do they say? Where there's smoke, there's fire. Number 4, DOJ creates Domestic Terrorism Council to target anti-government views. Americans motivated by anti-government views and racist ideologies, quote unquote, will be the focus of a new Democrat Department of Justice position, John Carlin said at George Washington University. The new Domestic Terrorism Council will work with the U.S. Attorney nationwide, quote, to identify trends that can be used to help shape a national strategy, end quote. This latest move from Department of Justice essentially enshrines homegrown paranoia about imagined enemies into the American psyche. Additionally, it serves to further expansion of the security state into the lives of American citizens on American soil, especially ones that choose to voice their displeasure with the government. So, just so everybody knows, I have never advocated shooting anybody in power. I've said recall them, sue them, impeach them. Now, do you have a problem with that? Do you have a problem with being recalled? It's not your permanent seat. You're not a king. It's not your permanent seat. For some reason, we can't recall Jesse Jackson. We can't recall Tavis Smiley. We can't recall Al Sharpton. We can't recall Louis Farrakhan. They're here to stay for some reason. And supposedly somebody put them over black people, without black people voting on it. That's odd. And for you people who say Farrakhan isn't in that group, well, there's some sort of allegations that Farrakhan might have intimate knowledge, and this is from his own mouth, of the assassination of one Malcolm X. Now, I made a video mentioning Farrakhan, and I had somebody who said that they were of the house of Malcolm X, one of his relatives, one of his descendants, and they said that snake killed my dad, my granddad. I don't recall. So, he's not the choir boy, the innocent church drummer that we all, or in his case, the innocent church violinist that he's painted out to be, right? I'm not saying he's anti-Semitic. I don't care about that crap. I'm saying, why is this person in this position when there are very serious allegations of impropriety? You shouldn't have anybody in the pulpit who has allegations of impropriety. The pulpit is supposed to be the blameless person. That includes Jesse Jackson, blameless. That includes Al Sharpton, blameless. Huh? Reverend. Why? Just because you talk to people on a weekly basis does not give you a basis of power. Your accolades, your qualifications are supposed to do that, right? That's when I say, if I were president, this is what I would do. People actually listen and say, you know what, you would make a great candidate. I agree with the policies that you're talking about. Not, thus saith the Lord, therefore you must follow me. Therefore you must listen to what I say. This is why I completely disagree with the Pope doing this political tour. It's not a world tour for Jesus or a world tour for God. It's a political tour. And I for one don't appreciate it. So what are we talking about? We're talking about a position created in the Department of Justice that will foment, solidify, keep people afraid of quote unquote domestic terrorism, because we know there's a terrorist under every rock. Yeah, that's why nothing happens on my black neighborhood street ever. Nothing ever exciting. Talk about suburbia being boring. Oh my God. And we don't even have shops that are close enough to to draw any real criminals, So literally I basically sit here kind of bored all day. And this is what I assume most of America is. People who do not live in a city. I mean, I'm in the city, but I'm not really in the city. I'm in a black neighborhood, a black old neighborhood. In realtor terms, I believe they call it an established neighborhood. So like probably 50% actually have their houses paid off. So they're just accumulating wealth, right? And of course, this is hot and heavy for the police are always driving by. Oh, we're gonna, well, you're gonna what? 30% of the people here are retired. What are you gonna do? Come and beat some black guy over the head? Walking his child to school? Yeah, that happened. Young black guy walked his child to school, beat him over the head, and threw him in the paddy wagon. Now, what could be the probable cause of them tasering some guy literally walking his child to the bus stop, putting the child on the bus? What could be the probable cause there? Oh, he had warrants out? How do you know he had warrants out? By looking at him? So you stopped and then checked for warrants? Because we don't have facial recognition on that kind of level, right? You beat him, tasered him, checked for his ID, and then said, oh, he has warrants. Great, now take him in. Why'd you stop him? Illegal people. Anyway, number 5, leaked drone papers. This is good here. Reveals 90% of the people killed in U.S. drone strikes are innocent civilians. Ooh. An anonymous whistleblower within the U.S. intelligence community provided a cache of classified intelligence documents to The Intercept, which revealed the extremely dysfunctional nature of the American drone warfare target assassination program. Why do we have such a thing? The stunning array of classified information included documents, analysis, slides, and visuals revealed an extreme lack of precision in the U.S. drone assassination campaign, with one document reportedly that nearly 90% of the people killed in airstrikes were not the intended targets over one 5-month period, just 5 months. So the U.S. government is killing U.S. civilians. This is what's not in the news. So as a recap, let me just go over just the titles. Number 1, U.S. government conveniently deleted UK government conveniently deleted entire database of evidence documenting pedophile rings. Number 2, newly released emails expose George Bush and Tony Blair plotting Iraq war a year before the invasion. Number 3, Russia destroys most ISIS heavy weaponry. U.S. promptly airdrops 50 tons of weapons into Syria. Number 4, DOJ creates Domestic Terrorism Council to target anti-government views, not to be outdone by. Number 5, leaked drone papers reveal 90% of the people killed in U.S. drone strikes are innocent civilians. You see how number 4 and number 5 go together? Now I have my own list that I was creating also because I thought it was very shocking that we have this Lamar Odom and Kim Kardashian. Is it Kim? Who is this? Khloe Kardashian story just all over the place. Even places that CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, all over the place. Who cares? Oh, he overdosed and went into a coma. It happens every day, all the time. Look at the time. It just happened again. But for some reason, we're not reporting it because it's not news. I knew that they were covering up something, so I went on and did my own investigation. Tell me what you think about this list. Do you agree with this list? Do you agree that you are being bamboozled by the news? Would you go so far as to call the news, your local news station, or write your local news station, or write and call, this is what really gets everybody, the sponsors, Kraft, M&M's, Apple. Would you call those sponsors and say, hey, I don't appreciate the news doing stupid stories on Lamar Odom and Khloe Kardashian? Would you remove your sponsorship from those shows? And that's how you actually get stuff done. Call the sponsors, because if an advertiser contacted me and says, hey, we don't like this, I would change my content, right? My product is the content. If the advertiser doesn't like the content, I change the content. If you don't like stories about Lamar Odom and Khloe Kardashian, and instead you want to hear about drone strikes, you call the advertiser. That's who you call, right? Money talks. All right, that goes for white, black, blue, whoever, right? Thank you so much for watching the Shikama Live Show. I wish that I did have a live show. This sounds like something that a live show would be, and I could have callers. I'm looking into that. I'm trying to see if that would be a good deal. All right, thank you for watching the Shikama Live Show.